Hello and welcome back to the interview. I'm your host, Jennifer Clyde. The Gayageum is a 12-string zither, which is one of the most notable traditional instruments of Korea. Since its development around the 6th century, it has been an integral part in the traditional music and culture of Korea. Today we'll meet Jocelyn Clark, who won the gold prize at a very recent Gayageum competition. So stay tuned to learn more about her and the beautiful traditional instrument of Korea, the Gayageum.
Jocelyn Clark, who goes by the name of Se-rin in Korea, was honored with the gold prize in the newcomer level at a national Gayageum competition. Born and raised in Alaska, Se-rin grew to love traditional Korean music in her 20s and acquired her doctorate degree from Harvard with a dissertation on Gayageum Byeongchang.
And I came here in 1992. I've been playing ever since.
She spent the past 20 years in Korea honing her skills, and she's taken it upon herself to serve as an ambassador of the Gayageum.
Give Kugak a new look and think about it in a way that they hadn't thought about it before.
Se-rin is endeavoring to draw more attention to this discipline and help continue on the tradition. Learn more about her story on today's The Interview.
So Jocelyn, I would like to first of all thank you for coming on our show. It's a great honor to have you on our show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You look beautiful in the Korean traditional costume hanbok.
I'm a big fan of hanbok, although sometimes as a foreigner I feel a little silly wearing it.
You look beautiful. I wish I had a hanbok. I wish I looked good in a hanbok.
I'm sure you do.
I look terrible in one.
I'm going to take you to my hanbok designer and we'll get you fixed up.
Really? Okay, we'll go for sure. Now, you won prizes at these Kayaking competitions. I understand that you won a prize. We call it 특별상, or the special prize at the Hyangsa Gayageum Byeongchang competition, and you decided to enter again this year.
Actually, it's my third time entering.
Third time. Mm-hmm.
Hyangsa is the artist name of Park Gi-hee, and she was the first national treasure, or the intangible human cultural asset for Gayageum Byeongchang. I got to meet her before she passed away, but she died in, I think, 1993. So she's been gone for a while now, and her disciples, or her students, set up this competition in Chilguk in her hometown, and it's been going for 4 years now. So my teacher entered me in the competition, and I actually placed. Nobody expected that, but in that year the foreigners weren't allowed to receive any prize money, so they had to demote me to give me the changu, which I was happy because I didn't have one. And I applied the next year. I got the silver prize because I made mistakes. And this year, for the first time, I got the gold prize. I'm in the amateur division, not in the regular division, but there were 17 Korean contestants. I was the only foreigner this year, and I feel happy about that.
Did you expect to win the gold prize?
No, but I was, aiming there. Didn't expect it, but I was happy about it. There's, the gold prize is not the first prize. The Taesang is the first prize, so I still have one more level to go up before I graduate from the amateur division.
And you sang a song called 백발가?
백발가 means
at the competition.
Song of white hair.
Song of white hair. 백발, white hair. Is there a reason why you chose to sing that song?
Mostly because, it wasn't really because of anything, just because that was in my sort of at a level where I could compete this year. It's a tanga. Tanga means a short song. And it's usually sung to warm up the voice before you sing a long pansori. So it's, it doesn't have these lots of jumps. It's kind of the melody is kind of, it's a little bit easier. It's not that easy, but a little bit easier than maybe one of these like pansori songs.
Would you say that it's very different from just, the normal singing, regular singing? How different would you say it is?
Well, it's Korean song, so Kayageum Byeongchang is from Jeolla province, so there's two main styles of like folk song singing styles in Korea. One is Gyeonggi style or like Sodosori. This is the style from the north, and then from the southwest we have the Pansori style. And today, though, you can find two types of Byeongchang singer. One is an instrumentalist who learns singing, and another is a Pansori singer who learns the Gayageum.
I see.
And I really enjoy singing, and I really enjoy learning it, but I'm not very good at
doing the same.
performing it. Yeah.
I've seen that a lot of people practice or they master their vocal, techniques. They practice very, very hard up in the mountains where those waterfalls are.
Challenging the waterfall, yes.
I
tried that, actually.
You have?
I'm from Alaska, so I went home and I thought, I'm going to try this challenging the waterfall thing and see if it makes any difference for me. Didn't help my pronunciation at all.
Oh, is it supposed to help your pronunciation?
No, but as being a foreigner, I need to fix my pronunciation, and I'm always thinking about my pronunciation. But I think the main point of this waterfall is that it produces a white noise. So it's shh, the sound, and you have to be able to project over that sound. But the great thing about it for me is because I'm not a good singer, so my first song to learn was 꽃이 피었네. It's a very cute little minyo. So I was singing like this. 꽃이 피었네. And my teacher's like, sing, can't you just sing? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed and I'm shy. Like, you have to sing really loudly. So when I went back to America, I was commuting between Boston and Connecticut. And so I had this long drive in between, and I started learning saranga. I mean, I'd already learned it here, but then I was going to have to perform it. And I was like nervous about it. I wanted to develop the right voice and everything. So I started singing in the car, and I thought, this is actually sounding very similar to the waterfall that I tried to practice in front of in Alaska, because when you're driving the car pretty fast on the highway, you have all this cars are passing you, and it's got this white noise aspect to it. So I practiced quite a lot in the car, and I still do practice in the car. Yes.
Se-rin practices the vocal style of the Gayageum Byeongchang in her car, and we were curious as to how she does it. Her impressive vocal style and articulation did not come without a struggle and endless practice.
다 한자 말이에요. 다 완전 중국 말이에요. 외우기가 힘들어요. 옛날에 어렸을 때 바로바로 외웠는데 지금은 나이 먹어서 안 들어가.
Now, another difficult aspect of Gayageum Byeongchang must be the lyrics.
Absolutely.
Even for Koreans, it's
yes, it took me some time to understand that I wasn't the only one struggling with all these Hanja lyrics.
Right, but how did you overcome these difficulties?
That's how I ended up writing my dissertation on Gayageum Byeongchang, because I wanted to perform in America, and I realized I needed to translate for the American audience. And I thought that was just a matter of, okay, just translate it, but it wasn't a straightforward matter at all. As I started to translate, I realized that it was actually much more even complicated than I had imagined. And one of the things is that most of the singers in the past, they're not educated in like Confucian classics, you know what I mean? So they don't know a lot of Hanja. Of course, they know a lot and they know what they're singing, but a lot of the lyrics sort of changed like a game of telephone over time. So an example is from the song of this love song from Junyoung. In that lyric, you can find a Hanja phrase is a 하상경지 마냐, and when we sing it, we sing 월, 마냐 월. But the ya cha, this ya should be, it functions as a period in Chinese. So ya, the ye in Chinese, that means period, end of sentence. And after this period is a 월.
And
right, 마냐 월. So what's that 월 doing there, and how are you supposed to translate that? Because if we look up the characters, we find that it should end with ya, and then there's a 월. So you can find, you probably think that the people that were singing it took this ya cha to be a different Chinese character meaning night. So this 하사경지 마냐, why did we meet so late? becomes meeting on a full moon at night. It changes completely
It's very
changes.
different.
So the Korean, so the singers are singing something different than the hancha that was put on top of it by Shin Jae-hyo. And this is where the complication comes in translating, because are you going to translate the correct Chinese phrase that Shin Jae-hyo had picked to put onto this pansori, or are you going to translate what the singers are actually singing, which actually doesn't work unless you can imagine what hancha they're using, and you have to really imagine that because it's all written in Hangul.
It must have been very difficult and must have taken a very long time.
One page one day. And I ended up writing like 500 pages, so it took me, much longer than I had planned and much longer than I had expected.
Known for its soft, pure, and lingering sound, the Gayageum is a traditional zither-like stringed instrument with 12 strings over a soundboard made of paulownia. Its history can be traced all the way back to 1,500 years ago. Uruk, a celebrated court musician in the Kaya Kingdom, was commissioned by the king to develop the Gayageum. After the fall of Kaya, he sought asylum in Shilla and carried on its tradition. The Gayageum has long been described as an instrument of the heavens, earth, and man. The rounded top symbolizes the heavens, the flat bottom the earth, and the empty space in the middle, the universe. This is the Gayageum, created in Kaya and bloomed into Shilla, and it has become one of the finest and most well-known traditional instruments of Korea today.
Now, we have a Gayageum right here on stage, right with you. Could you maybe begin by telling our viewers who are watching from abroad who may not be familiar with the Gayageum?
The Gayageum is a kind of a zither. That's how it's classified in organology. As you can see, it has 12 strings, and they're supposed to represent the 12 months of the year, 4 seasons. Has bridges. These are movable bridges. You can take them on and off. And these bridges are supposed to look like the foot of a wild goose.
Oh.
And when you play Gayageum, your left hand should be in the shape of the wing of a crane or a wild goose, depending. At the top, we have a moon and a sun. At the bottom, these are called crane's knees. And if you look at crane's knees, although they're black, they look almost similar. It's very interesting. And here we have the phoenix tail. On the back, it's very metaphysical. We have a sun and a moon, and this is the universe.
Oh, wow.
All of this corresponds mostly with the other East Asian zithers. I wanted to show you here too. We can't really see, it's all covered up, but here at the edge we have yang idu. It's called the rams, the horns of the sheep.
Oh, I see.
Like a doll sheep, kind of. So all these have to do with animals, and most of the zithers in East Asia are usually corresponding to like dragons, crouching dragons, and that kind of stuff. But this instrument, most of the mythology around it is associated with birds.
I see. I did not know that. I've seen many, many Gayageums. Not many with my own eyes in front of me, but I've seen many Gayageums on television. I've heard Gayageum being played, but I did not know about these little details of the Gayageum. And also, when you turn the Gayageum back, I saw that a name was engraved. It says Se-rin.
Se-rin?
Right.
어디서?
Did you not know that?
Oh, this is in pencil.
Is it in pencil?
Because when we play like 50 Gayageum players together, a lot of people use Gayageum from the same maker, so you have to.
Oh, I see.
People want to be able to identify your Gayageum. But actually, there's a name here. This Gayageum was made by the regional national living treasure in Yeongdong.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, all right. So we'll be talking more about the Gayageum, and hopefully we'll have the chance to listen to you play the Gayageum. But how long has it been since you began to play the Gayageum?
Well, I started actually with Japanese koto and played Chinese zheng. These are versions of the Gayageum in other countries. And I came here in 1992 when I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And I've been playing ever since, but I've been back and forth to go study, and I got in between I got a master's degree and a PhD, so that sort of took a little bit of my style out of my fingers for a while. So I came back around 6 or 7 years ago and started playing again, so I'm really sort of starting over, but not as a beginner.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you just mentioned that you do play the Japanese koto and the Chinese zheng. Zheng. Is there a reason?
Tang in Korean.
Tang, yes. Is there a reason as to why you chose to pick up the Gayageum?
Well, I love those two instruments as well, but since this was the last one I did, I kept wanting to play a little bit better, play a little bit better. And also, for me, the music of the Gayageum was the most challenging. Of course, the music of the other instruments is also challenging, but I kept wanting to understand better and to be a better player. And I thought, if I just play a little more, I mean, maybe if there was another zither that I had gone on to, I might have stayed there. But this music eventually is the music that sort of I wanted to get better at, and I am not better at it yet. So I keep playing.
You're just being modest. What was your first experience with the Gayageum? How was it to learn how to play the Gayageum?
I was a little bit arrogant because I played the Chinese Gayageum and the Japanese Gayageum before I came, and I thought, if you look at these instruments, the three side by side, you can see that they're same idea. The instrument is really nothing. It's just a board with strings on it, right? What we do when we play the Gayageum is we never let the strings ring. So when we play a note, it's ringing, but we stop it before we play the next note. So you only hear one note at a time. This is very different on the Gayageum than, it's almost like the gamelan where you're always shutting down the last note you played so you don't get too much shimmering effect. Gayageum, so in that way, Gayageum is very sort of, for me, it's a very humanistic instrument. It's almost like singing because there's no harmony. And you only hear one note at a time, so you're really sort of singing with strings. There's only, it's like a single human voice.
The beautiful sounds of the Gayageum are produced at the fingertips. Using the right hand, the strings are plucked and flicked. And using the left hand, the strings are pressed and moved as a way to cause sound variations. Diverse techniques are applied to create a wide range of sounds, in addition to varying the mode and rhythm. Stay tuned to delve deeper into the fascinating world of the Gayageum.
Since we're talking about practicing how to play and plucking the string, is there like a special technique that people must learn when it comes to like basic plucking techniques when it comes to playing the Gayageum?
When people think of plucking, they think of, guzheng technique is very, it's all in this is the zheng technique from China. It's very light. People think of, really plucking or plucking like this, right? But we don't do it like Gayageum. Gayageum, your hand stays always on this pillow. It's called a pillow. And, because you have to stop all the strings, this finger is also like a wing, and each finger rests on these strings so you can stop them. And you only use this finger. Basically, you're using your whole arm to pluck.
Oh, I see.
You're not bending anything. You're using your arm. And this way you can stop the other strings from ringing. Same thing for going down. So the thumb goes up. The other thing that's interesting with Gayageum, and this is also related to this, because the zither that Confucius played, the Chulyangum, the guqin. We use these flicking techniques.
Yes, I've seen you doing that as well.
So there's a single flick and a double flick. So we don't have this kind of tremolo that you have in the zheng and the koto. So, but we have something like that. It's close. Of course, you can't play the tremolo, but we don't normally, not traditionally. And this, this sets up a technique that's really designed to play in triple meters. So, all these changdan, changdan means long and dan means short. So changdan, long and short, means the rhythm pattern. And usually when we always play with the drummer, we never play alone. So when we do that, all the rhythm patterns, not all of them, but a lot of them are like 12 beats long, and inside of that is 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So everything's designed to play 3. So it's very hard, when you're playing like a new composition by a Western composer, for instance, and they often want to put things in 2 and 4, which is much more, typical of Western music. When do you hear 3 or 6? Usually when there's going to be a dance, right?
Right.
So that's what people think of when they think of 3. But the Kayagum's really, the whole technique is centered around like how do we make 3. So that's 4, right? This is the only time when you get 4, but still it's 3 here. Always 3. When we want to play 4, then we have to press another string. Still using.
I see.
And then you can get 4 at a fast tempo. But still, it's 3 is the basis of all what we play. There's no. We're not used to using this finger anyway. For me, I'm shorter than the rest. It's different for different people. But.
So you would pluck with your right fingers and you would stop that sound before you play the next note. What would you do? What do you normally do with your left hand?
Depends on which, depends on what mode you're on, what strings you're going to give vibrato or some kind of. So in Keimyeonjo, this is like the equivalent of minor. Should be sobbing sounds, right? Always resolving here. Always this kind of sobbing with a deep vibrato after it resolves. This is the sound of Keimyeon.
Wow, that's amazing.
This, if we're thinking about like modes of Korean music, the 2 main ones, if we want to say like in Western music, if you want to talk about modes, there's all sorts of mixolydian mode, all this kind of stuff from the Greek modes, but major and minor are the 2 ones we know, right? Majors for happy things and minors for sad things.
Right.
But if we look at this book from the 19th century, 18th century, it's called the Haedong Gayo, the Songs of the Eastern Sea. It's a book to teach Kagok singers how to think about modes. And in that book, you can find descriptions of the modes. And if they talk about ujo, sort of this kind of very hard sound. For Keimyeonjo, they always. This is the sad one, right? And then there's also something called Byeongjo. Byeongjo just means like peaceful mode. And when we play that mode, we have to think of Confucius playing his 5-string zither, the gochin. Also in Korean, it's called Hyangum. Actually, Confucius's time it was Hyangum.
I mean, just listening to you telling us about the Kayaking, and there's so much knowledge and there's so much you have to learn to be able to play.
Actually, you don't need any of that to play. It's just like superfluous. It actually has nothing to do with playing. But
while I was seeing you plucking the strings, as you said, you don't use a pick to play the Gayageum. I understand that your fingers bled.
They just started bleeding again this week.
Oh no! Oh, so they keep bleeding?
No, they don't normally. But this last week I was at a number of academic conferences, so I didn't have my kayak. I was in the Philippines, and then I went swimming in the ocean for like every day, hours and hours after the conference. So all my calluses went away, and I tried to get ready for today, and my fingers started to bleed again. Not bad. When I first started, I got these big blood blisters, and I tried to play. I was like, I'm going to practice really hard for my teacher, and then it was like 5 minutes later, I had a blood blister on all my fingers, and
you
can't
playing?
practice. So I showed up at my lesson one day with my blood blisters, and they popped all over my kayaking, and it was all like covered in blood. And she's like, stop. And I'm like, no, I want to play. She's like, no, go home. come back when your fingers are like stop bleeding.
So is it easier? Yes, it's probably easier for you to play if you have calluses.
Yeah, and the sound is also different. You know, so it's got the sound can almost, to me, it sometimes sounds like water dripping, like one drop. It's like very clear, sounds like water to me.
And when you have softer fingertips,
they're just like blah, 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 blah.
Chungum Salyeon, meaning appreciating lotus flowers while listening to the Kayageum, is a famous painting by Shin Yun-bok. This is one of the many examples that reveal the prominence of the Kayageum in the past. There are various types of music that are played with the Kayageum, and one of the most prevalent subgenres is Gayageum Sanjo. In Gayageum Sanjo, the soloist plays the Kayageum to the beats of Changu. The performer gets completely immersed in the music, starting with the slow Chinyangjo Changdan in the intro and progressively quickening the tempo before ending with the fastest Himori Changdan. The Kayageum solo conveys the core emotions of life: joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. This is the beauty of Gayageum Sanjo.
Now, also you mentioned something about the patterns and the styles. Now, when it comes to the Gayageum Sanjo, I heard that there are many schools or many styles.
This
Could you tell us a bit about that?
Ryu pa. Ryu means a flow, like flowing water. Yusu, like flowing water, right? So Ryu pa means, we translate it in English as school. The school that I study is the Sanggeumyeon Ryu. And this was a school that became very popular in the mid 20th century after this got developed. And this is an interesting Ryu school because Sanggeumyeon, she's from Jeollado, but she married Lee Young-hee. They got married and they put a lot of Gyeonggi elements into Sanjo. Sanjo means scattered melodies, so this kind of long instrumental virtuosic solo genre that every instrument now plays, but it started with the Kayageum. So in my school there's a lot of special things like kukgori. It's usually you don't find it in other Sanjos, but there's a really developed kukgori section in my. Kukgori is the kut means the shaman ceremony or but it's a shaman like ritual. Yes. That includes, dancing, shaman kind of dancing and rhythms. And he's the first national treasure for Shinawi, which is this kind of multi-instrumental jazz kind of genre. Through marrying, they mixed these things together. And they had a bunch of kids, lots of kids, and they all play Gayageum. And right now I'm studying with their first daughter, Chi-seongja. She's a regional treasure for Cholla province, North Cholla province. She's a really great teacher and shows me every week how much further I have to study to get really good at Sanjo. Anyway, she has her sister, all her sisters play, so there's a lot of propagating this Sanggeumyeon. And so usually when people started to play Gayageum, because it's sometimes considered easier because of this Gyeonggi style element in it, everybody learned to play this Sanjo as beginners. It's not like that so much anymore, but when I first started out, everybody already knew this, at least the short version of it. There's two kinds of Gayageum. This is a Sanjo Gayageum. There's also a bigger court Gayageum.
Is it just longer?
It's longer and it's wider, and between the strings, the technique is even different. So what's interesting about it is that the technique is very similar to koto. Japanese koto. It's kind of as if there were picks. Sangdong-jung style is also very similar to that. So you can sort of, through that instrument, you can really see the connections between the countries and that they were probably closely related at one time. But with Sanjo, that's has about 200 years of history right now. The strings got closer and closer together. This top board become flatter and flatter and flatter, so you can play faster and faster and faster. It gets more and more virtuosic as time goes on.
And how much wider would the strings be? I mean,
on the court Kayageum?
Yes.
Almost double.
Almost double.
Almost double, yeah. So it's really different instrument. Still 12 strings. Sound is much bigger. And the back side of the court Kayageum, it's basically carved out of one piece of wood. So this is, this has a top side which is paulownia wood, and the bottom side is In this case, it's hardwood. Sometimes they make it out of pine. The cheaper the instrument, the softer the wood gets. So this is a nice hardwood on the back. In the case of that instrument, it's only one piece of wood, paulownia, and it's all carved out of the one piece of wood. So it's all open in the back. There's a very big sound. Beautiful, beautiful instrument. Yeah, but quite different.
How did the Gayageum sound to you when you first listened to it being played? Did it sound unfamiliar to you, or?
It sounded very rough and dark.
Rough and dark.
Because I played these instruments with metal strings, so there's very bright sound, and they also use picks, so it gets a very bright, happy. And I'd come from the last instrument I'd played before I came to Korea was in China, so we were playing like communist music, right? That's like really music for the people. It's very easy to understand. Songs about Mao Zedong and this kind of stuff, and the red flowers blooming on the mountain, it's like very okay. And then I came here and it was like, what's that? It's so dark. And there's none of this stuff going on, right?
Right. Very serious.
Very, it took me a while to get used to the aesthetic of it. It's very, Koreans like raspiness and like sort of this rough sound.
Yes.
So this took me some time to understand, especially with these, Korean music, sanjo is really about playing with modes. It's not programmatic music like I was studying in China. And the other thing is that it's always, accompanied by these rhythm patterns with the drum, and you have to really get to know that, because I could never find where the one was when I first started, because I hadn't studied the rhythm patterns at first. But then I enrolled in classes. At that time there was nothing set up for foreigners at that time. So anyway, I enrolled in these classes at Cuyahoga at the National Classical Music Institute. Usually it was mostly filled with grandmothers. It's filled with the grandmothers, and these are night classes. So I took a group chango class with the grandmothers, and I took a folk singing class with the grandmothers. But all those grandmothers spoke Japanese, which I had already had since I was a kid. So actually, I was communicating in Japanese when I first got here, and my teachers, all my teachers speak Japanese really well. So when I first started studying, I was studying this Korean traditional music in Japanese. And through that, I was able to learn rhythm patterns, and slowly, I was here on a scholarship, so I thought, in the beginning I was like, what is this music? It's not what I thought it would be, kind of thing. But, since I was on a scholarship, I thought it would behoove me to spend some time trying to figure out why I didn't understand it, and what I needed to do to come to understand it.
So once you started to understand a bit more and more about this music, did you fall in love with it?
Yeah, it took me about a year to really sort of fall into.
A year? That's long?
Yeah, it took some time, because I started playing violin when I was like 3 years old, and I played piano since I was 4, and I played in the orchestra, and I played in the band, and I played oboe, clarinet. I'm really someone that grew up steeped in Western classical music tradition, and koto didn't stray from that too much, and neither did the jung. But when I got to the Gayageum, that was something really different than what I knew. And the jung had already sort of taken me away in terms of like getting away from tuning, right? So that getting away from harmony and these ideas. But Gayageum was the first one sort of challenged me aesthetically.
What was your first Gayageum piece that you played or started with
Have you heard this piece before?
Of course.
And then I learned tutelage. So this was we just went through minyo after minyo, mostly Gyeonggi style, and still this was difficult because of this triple meter that I also wasn't that used to. So it took me to really count and feel those rhythm patterns and feel the rhythm of 3.
Now, as a foreigner, I mean, as a foreign Gayageum player, let's put it, is there a particular impact that you want to make? I mean, do you want to motivate other foreign, visitors visiting Korea, or just people watching from abroad, be able to play the Gayageum, or maybe just give it a shot?
No, I don't think my role is to inspire foreigners to play the Gayageum. I mean, foreigners are interested in authenticity, so they want to see Koreans playing the Gayageum. So I think that's my role, is to inspire Koreans to play the Gayageum. Actually, when I first came here, people started telling me, oh, you can never play Korean music because it's not in your blood, meaning that you haven't heard it since you're a kid. That's what that means. We've heard it since we're a kid, so we can play this because we just absorbed it through osmosis. And now the situation for our Korean kids is not any different than it is for a Western, and they grow up with completely Western ears. So it's very difficult to, it's the situation for a foreigner or for a Korean to play the Gayageum or play any kind of kugak scene is the same. We're all Westerners now. And this means the end of kugak. And people also are told by people that are older than them, and kids all love kugak, there's no problem with kids and kugak, but they learn to dislike it. They learn that it's not cool, they learn that it's associated with low class, and Western music is associated with high class. So, as a foreigner, and not just any foreigner, I mean, when I first came here I was just any foreigner, but now I've gone in and I got a PhD from Harvard, which, Americans could really care less about, but Koreans like this thing, and so there's a clash of expectations in a way that, why is a Harvard PhD playing this low-class instrument? And this, in a way, I think allows Koreans, it gives them permission in a way to look at the instrument with new eyes, not just the instrument, but the whole field of traditional music with new eyes, and think about it twice, I guess. I mean, I can never be as good as my teachers are. And even if I play till I die, I'm not going to be as good as my teachers. But what I can do is try to inspire young Koreans, and especially young Koreans and people who are not that interested in kugak, is to give kugak a new look and try to interest them in Korean traditional music and think about it in a way that they hadn't thought about it before. So I think that's more my role than inspiring foreigners.
Do you have any future plans? Just, I guess, personal plans, or even career-related goals that you want to accomplish?
Well, my goal is just to keep on getting better.
Getting better.
So I want to make a CD of traditional music. Sanjo CD. I want to make a Sanjo CD. I want to do it before the Korean Olympics, and then once I've made a traditional CD, then my other sort of passion is contemporary music. I like to work with composers. I like to commission composers. I like to create. I'm not a composer myself. I'm not trained for that, but I love working with composers from really lots of different countries. That's where I was last week, where I lost all my calluses. I was at the Asian Composers League conference in the Philippines, where composers from all over Southeast Asia, East Asia, come and present their works. And through these kind of activities, I get to meet them and try to get them to think about the Gayageum and commission new pieces of contemporary music for Gayageum. So that's my other interests. And I'm doing that with my ensemble, with Koto Gayageum Byeongchang ensemble. And that's also an interesting project for me too, like how these three East Asian zither traditions, how can we bring them to talk to each other in some way? And this brings about world peace, no?
Well, it sounds like you have great plans for the future. Well, I do want to thank you so much for your time and for helping us, I guess, learn more about the Gayageum, about the beauty of the Gayageum. And I don't know how you do it, but sitting in this position for this long is just killing my legs.
So lots of practice.
Well, thank you so much once again for...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.